It's working. OMG. Third time is a charm. Man, what a pain in the butt. But do I even have sound? Okay, it looks like it does have sound. Okay, am I allowed to say but? But. So I'm going to give you guys a minute to try to find the stream. OMG, it's just so hateful. The problems that always want to be inventing themselves, right? It's just like everything else in life. If everything that can go wrong will, isn't that like Murphy's Law? So I don't see anybody in the live chat yet. So I'm just going to chill while I get rolling with my stuff. Like everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. Mrs. Amir, hello once again, my dear. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an infotainment platform. How are you today? Zaza, can I call you Zaza? If you don't mind. I love that. Miss Amir Zaza. But how's your day going? How's your boys? So let's see. It is just after 2. This is my third attempt to go live. Thank goodness it's working. I was thinking maybe I was being shadow banned more aggressively for trying to speak about George Floyd and Derek Chauvin. Yes, it's terrible. It's been 5 years since the red rum that we all saw, and I've watched it again since yesterday. It's disgusting. Disgusting, as my youngest boy would say. I'm here, but going to watch on the TV, need to charge my phone. Yes, always keep those things charged up, right? I try to keep mine charged to 100% at all times, but still, it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes your charger is not plugged in, or, your power goes out. We do good, ma'am. Thank you for asking. So, I have a lot that I wanted to discuss today, but first, I will ask you to hit your like button and what else? Make sure you're still subscribed if you are subscribed, and if you're not, please consider doing so. Turn on your notification bell to ring and share a video of mine with somebody that you think would like my channel, maybe to a Facebook group or whatever. That sucks. What sucks? Oh, the George Floyd thing, the shadow banning. Yeah. So, mm, it's devastating. There's a lot that I don't know. I try to learn all the time, and I'm just constantly amazed at how much I don't know. It was one of my favorite all-time quotes is Einstein. The more you learn, the more you know how much you'll never know, or something like that. I don't remember. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So yeah, the more you know, the more you understand that you will never know, right? I mean, life is just mysterious. But first, should we talk about my jewelry real quick? I made the necklace and earrings, and I love them. I have a series of, like, I think 2 pairs of earrings, maybe 3, and I want to say 3 or 4 necklaces, and they all kind of mix and match, and they're like trees and pink and green and silver and gold, and yeah, it's cool stuff. I'll give you a close up of the earring real quick, because that translucent clear bead at the top is just so cool. I don't think it's glass. I think it might be glass, but I'm pretty sure it's like a plexiglass kind of thing, like a resin, like a polymer, and that just means that it's a lighter weight, and glass is like cold to the touch. But again, like I like to not try to pretend that I made things that I didn't make. I did not make that little tree thing. So basically I assembled the earring. Let me just say that. And I assembled the necklace. And it was some of that stuff that I purchased so that I could take it all apart and then redo it. Like, that's one of my favorite things to do, to waste time. I've got a lot of hobbies. And sometimes I think that they're just like the bomb and they're like the bread and butter that keep my soul alive. And then other times I'm just like, I put way too much time into this stuff. Like I told you guys a few weeks ago, I spent literally like 8 hours redoing a necklace that I had done years ago. And I didn't do it the way I wanted it. But I just left it. I was like, it's fine. I'll just live with it. Let me see. Do I have it right here? I might be able to grab it, but it might be upstairs. One sec. It is not here. But I'll grab another necklace that is. And it depends on what your definition of is. Mrs. Amir, you know so much about our American culture. It amazes me. Do you remember however many years ago that was, like a million? I don't know, 20-ish, when Bill Clinton said it depends on what your definition of is. That's like one of the best or worst quotes of all time, in my opinion. Let's see. Should I turn it around? I love this necklace. I'm not bragging. I'm not showing off. But see, it kind of looks silly with this outfit, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm going to take it off. Less is more. Let me just be a complete goof. Take off my hat, my glasses, everything. Let me break my necklace. Let me just tear it all apart. Okay, here we go. We're going to pick up the notebook and start talking about the cases because, like I said, there's too much. So, yeah, I'm having an avoidance video. I'm trying to avoid talking about the utterly painful and disgusting crap that I think a lot of us have avoided a lot of the conversation. I can only speak for myself, though. It's a very uncomfortable conversation about George Floyd, about police brutality. You know, I'm full disclosure, I'm married to a police officer. He's also a firefighter and an EMT. So he's a first responder of the trifecta type. And that's really cool for a lot of reasons. It's just nice to help people. I mean, that's what he does. And that's also the profession that I've been in since, I don't know, college, helping people, primarily with psychotherapy, but hopefully with YouTube. So, yeah, I like to learn, I like to share, I like to grow, I like to keep an open mind and be humble, and I like to discuss things that feel very important to me. The Derek Chauvin is very important to me because I fully believe that Trump is going to pardon him at any effing minute. Trump has been partying. Trump has been partying, probably. He's been partying his ass off, man. He is just like so effing power drunk. It's crazy. It's literally crazy. He is the definition of crazy. In my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. In my professional opinion, he's just bat shit cray cray. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, I was talking about some of these things yesterday. I wanted to clear up some of the mistakes that I made first. I always like to clarify, and I haven't had a chance to put this part into the comments section or the description yet. I was getting my wires crossed yesterday when I was speaking of a sheriff that our president just pardoned. So he just pardoned this guy, Scott Jenkins. He's a Virginia sheriff who was convicted in a bribery scheme where he was convicted. So it's not allegedly, he was convicted of accepting $75,000 in exchange for badges. That's so freaking dangerous. So there was no vetting, there was no training. He was just giving out badges to people that had cash to give to him. That's what he got convicted of. That's what he's been pardoned from. So his name is Scott Jenkins, Virginia sheriff. Horrible man. Horrible. Just corrupt, and it just puts it's such a disservice to law enforcement. It's such a disservice to health and public safety because, as we all know, anybody can just wave that badge and abuse people. And so the wires that was crossing yesterday is I was confusing Scott Jenkins with Grant Hardin. So Grant Hardin is a hardened criminal who is a former police chief from Arkansas. He broke out of jail recently and he's on the lam, I think, still. And so he was the one who was the perpetrator of SA and Red Rum. So I had mistakenly said that, and this was crazy that I said it because I should have known, like, that can't be. That the Trumpster fire had pardoned this guy, Grant Hardin. There I go. Once the wires are crossed, they'll forever be crossed. So Grant Hardin is the hardened criminal who's been doing hard time, who broke out of jail in Arkansas. So he's on the lam. Scott Jenkins is the one that was just pardoned. So clarity, hopefully, around that. And it drives me nuts when the Trumpster fire talks about these convicted rapists. He doesn't even say convicted. The Red Rummers, the sexual assaulters, when he's talking about deporting people that are not American citizens. And he's accusing them of being these criminals when he is literally pardoning criminals. I mean, how many of the J6ers, I think there were 1,600 that he pardoned, how many of those have since committed other heinous crimes like child R, Red Rum, and other things, hashtag other things. Hideous, hideous, hideous. Like, you can't just go pardoning people left and right. I mean, you can, but it's gonna backfire. It's gonna blow up in your face. And this current world leader that we have representing our country is doing the entire country and the entire world such a disservice, in my opinion. And ultimately, I do think it's gonna smack him in the face. Like, I have this image of him basically stepping on a rake. I think that's what he's doing. He's just almost like planting rakes for himself to step on. So sorry that you can hear the dogs barking in the background. The only reason it bothers me is because sometimes it completely, like, disrupts my thought process and I have no idea what I'm talking about. But hey, what's new, right? Okay. So the waste, fraud, and abuse, when you have these jury trials and these juries, like the jury that just convicted Scott Jenkins of the bribery scheme, immediately after they finally reach their verdict, he's pardoned. I mean, what kind of waste is that of our court system, of everybody's time and effort? I mean, serving on a jury is a lot. That's a lot of commitment. And then, you should be appreciated and celebrated for that rather than having it just blow up in your face. Like, oh, well, that was all for naught, right? And I'm like fiddling with my lights. I feel like I'm a little washed out. Is that okay? Let me see if I can adjust this right here. That should do it. Now am I too dark? Can you see me now? Hey, Becky. He just swallowed rugs, which was part of why he couldn't breathe. The other reason was the cop, of course. Right, Becky. And if you're here to discuss, that's cool. But if you are here to troll, not cool. We all watched him get unalived by law enforcement. 9 minutes and 28 seconds. So the position that Chauvin had. Oh, and I was going to read you some of Chauvin's history. So if you are here to troll Becky, you can listen to Chauvin's history. And yeah, like I said, I'm happy to have a discussion, but I'm not happy to have a troll. So I don't know if you want to define yourself or if you want to dip. It's your prerogative, of course. So that off-duty firefighter who just happened to be out on a walk that morning, that young woman did such a great service to George Floyd and to law enforcement and to first responders everywhere. The woman that was on a walk who made her own videotape. There were several people videotaping, and what you don't see on most of the videotapes is the other two police officers that are helping Chauvin pin George Floyd down. It was 3-on-1. It was nuts. Hey, babies. Come on in. Come on in, everybody. Okay, we're having a dog party. It might be a little much. We'll see how it goes. We got all 3 pups in here. Usually Coco likes to come in to get rid of the other 2 pups. Oh, let me show you. Come here, little girl. Let me show you how big the puppy's getting. Come here, Chi. Chi, come. Coco, come here, Chi. Come here, you little ragamuffin. Oh, my goodness. While we're talking about such evil, let's just look at such cute silliness. Oh, she's adorable. She's such a little raggy muffin. She's getting so big. She's about 5 months old now. Mwah. Mwah. Such a cute face. And her legs look like they're bell-bottomed because she's got all this long fur at the bottom of her feet. So she kind of looks like Gumby. There's the girl. So yeah, that kind of takes the edge off when talking about Chauvin. Let me just read you some of the history that I found on him. And I didn't have to really do any digging to find it. Here we go. This is just Wikipedia. So Derek Michael Chauvin, born 1976, is an American former police officer who murdered George Floyd, a 46-year-old African-American man in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So that's not arguable. That's what it says in Wikipedia. And Wikipedia is always right. I'm just kidding. Sometimes Wikipedia is not right. But good for him that he does have a bachelor's degree from Metropolitan State University. He also went to a technical college. So he's incarcerated for the conviction of the deprivation of rights, 2 counts. It says unintentional second degree red rum, but it also says 3rd degree red rum, 2nd degree manslaughter, and tax evasion, 2 counts. So he was a bad actor already. He had done a lot of bad things. He was under investigation for a lot of bad things, mostly racist type of excessive use of force, which is one of the worst things that you can do as law enforcement, is the excessive use of force. Again, that makes everybody unsafe, and it makes law enforcement look really bad, and it makes people have trouble trusting law enforcement. So I'm just going to read you what it says here. On May 25th, 2020, Floyd was arrested after a store clerk alleged that he made a purchase using a counterfeit $20 bill. And I want to add that alleged counterfeit $20 bill has never materialized. So in my opinion, that's bullcrap. It was never taken into evidence. It was never photographed, nothing. It doesn't exist. If they don't have evidence of it, it doesn't exist. So, And here it even says alleged. The store clerk alleged that he made a purchase using a counterfeit $20 bill. So it's not proven at all, ever. In the course of the arrest, Chauvin knelt on Floyd's neck for about 9 minutes while Floyd was handcuffed and lying face down on the street and calling out, "I can't breathe." The murder set off a series of protests in Minneapolis, across the U.S., and around the world in support of Black Lives Matter movement. The Black Lives Matter, blah, blah, in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. In early 2021, Chauvin was put on trial for unintentional second-degree red rum, third-degree red rum, and second-degree manslaughter, and convicted on all of the charges. I believe that it was premeditated, actually. I believe the whole thing was a setup, in my opinion. I have reason to believe that I will share. He was sentenced to 22 and a half years in prison. Appeals to the Minnesota Supreme Court and Supreme Court of the United States for review were denied. So, there's other cases that he has been tried for. So here we go. The U.S. Department of Justice, the DOJ, convened a grand jury in February 2021 to investigate whether Chauvin violated Floyd's civil rights, as well as another incident in September 2017, when Chauvin restrained a 14-year-old boy for several minutes, using his knee to lean into the boy's back and hitting him with a flashlight several times. During the restraint, Chauvin ignored the boy's pleas that he could not breathe, and the boy briefly lost consciousness. The 2017 incident was deemed inadmissible as evidence in Chauvin's murder trial. Following Chauvin's murder conviction, the investigation was still underway, with the DOJ reportedly weighing whether to bring criminal charges against Chauvin for the 2017 incident. Hey, what are you doing? Don't eat that. Little puppy's trying to eat my plant stand. Federal investigators plan to charge Chauvin and 3 other officers for federal civil rights violation, and intended to ask the grand jury to indict him for both the 2017 and 2020 incidents. On May 7th, 2021, the U.S. DOJ indicted Chauvin alongside his 3 co-officers for constitutional civil rights violations for their involvement in the murder of George Floyd. These indictments caused the state court trial for the 3 officers to be pushed back to start on March 7th of 2022 from August 23rd of 2021. Chauvin also, on May 7th, 2021, was indicted by the same grand jury for violating the civil rights of the 14-year-old boy he arrested in the aforementioned September 2017 incident. The federal charges were to be prosecuted by Justice Department attorneys in Minnesota and Washington, D.C. on September 16th, 2021. Chauvin pleaded not guilty to the charges related to the 2017 incident indictment. 3 months after initially entering a plea of not guilty to the federal charges, Chauvin requested a hearing to offer a revised plea. On December 15th, 2021, Chauvin pleaded guilty to the federal charges of violating the rights of Floyd and to violating the rights of the 14-year-old boy in the 2017 incident. So he pled guilty December 15th, 2021 to both. Chauvin admitted for the first time that he willfully violated Floyd's constitutional right to be free from unreasonable seizure, which includes the right to be free from the use of unreasonable force by a police officer, by continuously kneeling on Floyd's neck, even though Floyd was handcuffed and not resisting at the time. Chauvin also admitted willfully violating Floyd's constitutional right to not be deprived of liberty without due process of law, including the right to be free from a police officer's deliberate indifference to Floyd's serious medical needs. Chauvin admitted that his knee had remained on Floyd's neck even after Floyd became unresponsive. Oh, it is so chilling to watch. So chilling. In the plea, Chauvin also admitted violating a 14-year-old's constitutional right to be free from the unreasonable force by a police officer stemming from a 2017 incident when he held the boy by the throat, hitting him in the head with a flashlight, and knelt on the upper back of the boy, who was prone, handcuffed, and not resisting. Let me also add that there's two other incidences very similar to the one from 2017 that he has also been tried for, and another one of them was a teenager, I think 17 years old, in the boy's own home. The mother had called the police, um, and very, very similar. According to the Wall Street Journal, a plea deal was reached whereby federal prosecutors would request a 300-month, 25-year sentence to be served concurrently with the state of Minnesota sentence instead of the maximum life in prison. On May 4th, 2022, the judge presiding over the federal case accepted the plea deal, paving the way for a sentence of between 20 and 25 years in prison to be served concurrently with his state sentence. On July 7th, 2022, Chauvin was sentenced to 21 years in prison on the charges of violating the civil rights of George Floyd and the boy. In the aftermath of the criminal and civil rights cases against him, Chauvin claimed that other evidence not presented at the criminal trial showed that a tumor may have contributed to Floyd's death and that he would not have pleaded guilty to federal charges had he been aware of it. Chauvin filed a motion in federal court in mid-November 2023 attempting to vacate the civil rights conviction. In December 2024, a U.S. District Court accepted Chauvin's demand to have Floyd's tissue remains tested again to check for alternative causes of deaths. It was only one death, so that's weird. Yeah. Where are all of those other tax evasion? Yeah, I'll leave that alone for the moment. So, yeah. Becky, I just want to address that George Floyd doing recreational activities on his day off is kind of his own business. And yeah, I don't know. Are you really named Becky or are you just being a Becky? You know, if you're still here, even. Um, Yeah, he couldn't breathe completely because the guy had him in a death grip. Let's see, what was it called? It's a jujitsu move called the blood choke. So he had him in the blood choke, and that's why he couldn't breathe. It had nothing to do with whatever recreational substances he might have ingested. It had nothing to do with any freaking tumor. I mean, one of the things that there's so much in the videotape footage, even when you're only looking at pieces of it, it's so hard to watch it. And when you see that there's three cops pinning him down, not just the one that you famously see in so much of the surveillance footage, you see that he urinated on the pavement while pinned down. I mean, when he relieved himself, that's probably when he lost consciousness or maybe lost life, basically. And then, forgive me, like trigger warning, big time, but I'm pretty sure that that urine actually like travels where his mouth was on the pavement too. And it's just absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely gross. He's completely limp and flaccid. It's obvious that he's deceased while they're still pinning him down. And then when the medics get there, I put links to 2 videos in the description from yesterday. So in the first one, it shows in real time how slowly the medics are moving as they're getting out of their vehicle and getting the gurney, and then maybe attempting to take a pulse, but they're not moving quickly. And then in the second video, it's from the news, from like an ABC channel, I think. And they're actually like speeding it up when they show the part with the first responder medics getting the gurney out. They're speeded up so it looks like they're doing it quickly, the way you would when you're a first responder and there's a medical crisis. So they were not moving quickly, and they were not attending to the fact that he had no pulse. So I just want to add that because you can see it very clearly in the video, the first link that I put in the description yesterday. And I'll put both of those links in the description again today. But he had 18 complaints against him. Chauvin did at the time that this happened. He'd had 18 complaints against him. He had worked for that restaurant where they had the Tuesday night parties, the dance parties, basically. He had worked there for 17 years, I think. And there had been complaints about him being unnecessarily aggressive, even at the club. The club got burned down a couple of days after the killing of George Floyd, and there were employees that spoke about the fact that Chauvin and Floyd didn't get along, that they worked together. I stated this yesterday, that Chauvin was like the supervisor of the outside patrol or security, outdoor security at the club. And then Floyd was the supervisor for the indoor security of the club. And the name of the place, I wrote it down. I was taking a lot of notes. El Nuevo Rodeo Club. So it was also just down the street from the precinct, the 3rd precinct. It had just sold, so the current owner was handing ownership of the club over to someone else, but then it got burned down. And they'd also been charged and found guilty of, in years prior, of laundering money, specifically rug money from Mexico. So El Nuevo Rodeo Club had a history of laundering rug money from Mexico. So they had a grudge. They knew each other, and that was denied. It was never put into evidence that they knew each other. Things like that in the trial are so shady. Like, that's where our system is just rigged, because they should have been able to state that they knew each other. But that would have given Chauvin a much steeper sentence had he been found guilty of premeditated red rum, which is what it would tie to directly if they allowed that information, that they knew each other and that they had butted heads, which they had. But the people that reported that reversed their stories. So it was covered up, basically. And then, yeah, that Vegas judge, what was her name? Where did I write that one down? Marie Fiore, the Las Vegas politician. So that's the one. The other one that the Trumpster fire just uh, absolved and pardoned of her convictions. She was the one who was convicted for basically stealing $70,000 from a fund that was created to make a memorial statue for a fallen police officer. So she stole that $70,000. She used part of the money for a boob job, which she already had a giant chest, which I don't know why anybody would do that. If anything, I'd be getting a reduction even with the size I am now because it's uncomfortable. It's annoying. There's a reason why, you know, people get reductions. Like I never understood that when I was young. I was like, why would anybody get a reduction? But yeah, it's they're inconvenient to say the least. But somebody like Dolly Parton, she had a number of breast enhancement surgeries, and her story, which I respect Dolly Parton and her story, is that she didn't think people would listen to her music unless she had giant breasts. So, I mean, it's sad, but at least she's honest about it, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, they were already extremely large. And then I think she made them too big, and then she had to like go for a couple of reductions because, it can create a lot of health problems, not to mention the weight on your back. But this Marie Fiore, to spend money that's not even hers on something like that when she was literally already too large to begin with up top, and then she's like extremely too large, and how demented. But she's a hardcore Trumpster fire type of person, so she was pardoned. Oh, she also spent some of the money on her daughter's wedding, which I'm sorry, but I think that she cursed her daughter and her daughter's marriage with that crime right there. Again, the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. That's all waste, fraud, and abuse. And then she gets pardoned because she's a white chick and she's a Trumpster fire supporter. I have no patience for that. But let's put a little bit of comedy in here. Hey, Annabees, my dear, how are you, my love? Um, Nice to see you. How are you doing today? Let's put a little bit of comedy right here. You guys, I'm sure, have heard the phrase, the leopard eating the face phrase, which is kind of a common cliche these days. And it's mostly used politically, like people that vote for something that then bites them on the ass. Like, let's say somebody who voted for the Trumpster fire who then gets deported, right? That's happened a lot. Or somebody who votes for the Trumpster fire and then their business shuts down because of the tariffs or for a number of other reasons. But this is just a couple of cute sayings that are like the leopards eating your face type of thing. Um, this is one of my favorite, the Canadians, because you know how much I like rodents. The mice voting for cats. It's a good one. Turkeys voting for Thanksgiving. Chickens for Colonel Sanders. And only the most stupid calves would vote for their butchers. Another good one. So let's get on to some more cheerful topics, right? Um, yeah, I couldn't believe that the alleged fake $20 bill in that Floyd case had never been taken into evidence and never materialized. Like, I knew that it could have been a fake allegation, But that to me says that it absolutely, positively is a fake allegation, because there's no reason in hell you wouldn't take that 20 into evidence when there's a death tied to it. Give me a break. That is absolutely ridiculous. Um, so yeah, 9 minutes and 20 seconds was how long the jiu-jitsu move, the blood choke, was exercised on to Floyd. 9 minutes and 29 seconds. And the off-duty firefighter, her name is Genevieve Hansen. Genevieve Hansen. Also, I always go through and fact check myself. I said yesterday that George Floyd was somewhere around 6'2" to 6'5". It says online that he measured at 6'4" on the date of his passing, but that he had measured as tall as 6'6" when he was younger. He was 46 years old when he passed away. And Chauvin, I think, was 43 at the time. Chauvin was born in 1976 and Floyd was born in 1973. Oh, and Chauvin, it says on the Wikipedia that he's 5'9". Again, that's probably on his tiptoes and high heels. So the fact that it says 5'9" and it doesn't give a range, he's so little. When you see him standing next to anybody else on the videotape, he's probably closer to 5'7". I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. Mick Jagger is close to 5'7". A lot of Sylvester Stallone, probably 5'7" on his tiptoes with his high heels on, right? Even Tom Cruise. There's a lot of guys that have made themselves great lives that don't have a lot of height. Like, having a lot of height doesn't automatically make you a hero, of course. But I thought that this was funny that with George Floyd being on record of 6'5", give or take an inch, his weight at the time of his death was 223 pounds. Isn't that about the exact weight that the Trumpster fire claims that he is? And he claims to be 6'3". And I don't know, you look at the two of them next to each other, if you could, photographs of them side by side, there's quite a striking difference. And yeah, George Floyd had 5 kids. I don't think Chauvin had any kids. Floyd had a girlfriend of 3 years at the time of his death, and Chauvin had gone through a divorce where he had cheated his ex-wife out of a lot of the money that he earned, like even $100,000 that he earned as security at that rodeo club. He never reported that. So he was also a tax cheat. El Nuevo Rodeo Club. So yeah. And again, Trumpster Fire seems to have quite a penchant for tax cheats, right? It's pretty sickening. So I also found it interesting that Chauvin had been involved in 3 police shootings, one of them fatal, in his, I think, 19 years that he was law enforcement. So 18 complaints and 3 shootings, one of them fatal. That seems to me to be a lot of police shootings. But then, I mean, it is a big city, so I don't know. I'm sure they were all justified, right? I'm sure they were. Okay, I think that's about all of that information that I wanted to cover. The waste, the fraud, the abuse. Anna B says, I thought Chauvin was married at the time and she divorced him while all this was going on. I think that there's two divorces, Anna B's. I think you are correct. Let me see if I Google Chauvin divorce. Well, maybe it's just the one divorce, but that he was charged with. I'll read you what AI Overview says. Derek Chauvin and his wife Kelly Chauvin finalized their divorce in February 2021. Kelly Chauvin filed for divorce in May 2020. So yeah, I mean this murder happened on May 25th of 2020. So she didn't waste any time at all. Shortly after her husband was charged with the murder and the death of George Floyd, the divorce was finalized after a judge initially rejected an earlier settlement agreement due to concerns about the possibility of fraud. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Kelly Chauvin filed for divorce in May 2020, citing an irretrievable breakdown of the marriage. She also requested a name change. Initial settlement rejection. A Minnesota judge initially rejected a proposed settlement agreement that would have transferred most of the couple's assets to Kelly Chauvin. The judge raised concerns about the possibility of fraud. Finalized divorce February 2021 after the judge approved a new settlement. Kelly Chauvin's actions following the divorce. Kelly Chauvin indicated her intent to change her last name to a common name for protection, according to news reports. She also pled guilty to tax evasion and received a 20-day sentence, according to reports. That's interesting that she got charged with tax evasion. But yeah, if they were filing their taxes jointly, and I don't think that Chauvin was reporting any of his earnings from the club. That's what it sounded like, because it was $100,000 and he worked there for 17 years. So I would think that $100,000 is probably spread out over the 17 years, but that's just an assumption. Let's see. Notes. So many notes. El Nuevo Rodeo Club. So yeah, it was a dance competition that they had every Tuesday night. Sounds like fun. But Derek Chauvin's ex-wife says he ruined her life. Huh. I could agree with that. I mean, a high profile racist murder conviction. Yeah, that'll ruin your life. But yeah, my point was I don't think that they had any kids. So yeah, it looks like he was just married the one time. And yeah, there wasn't much online about the counterfeit money that the club allegedly produced. Just all that I could find was information about them being busted years prior for laundering rug money from Mexican rug sales, which would then involve probably a card that tells or doesn't tell, right? Ugh. Absolutely insane. And then there's that reality television couple that Trumpster Fire either just pardoned in the last 24 hours or he has just announced that he's going to be pardoning them in the last 24 hours. And they too have been charged with tax evasion. So it looks like their daughter is a big MAGA fan, and thus she was able to bend the ear or the interest of Donnie, dear leader. So, yeah, thanks for your comment, Anna Bees, to clarify about the marriage. So, you know who else did a similar divorce filing was Michael Skakel's wife at the time that he was finally arrested for Martha Moxley's Red Rum. They had not been married that long, but she had just given birth maybe in the last year. Let's see. Michael. I've always thought Michael is spelled weird. Um, Michael Skakel divorce. And I don't know if he's been divorced more than once. So I think that he was initially charged in the year 2000. So it was 25 years after the Red Rum. So it says here in 1991, Skakel married professional golfer Margot Sheridan, with whom he has one child. Sheridan filed for divorce shortly after Skakel was arrested for Moxley's murder in January 2000. Their divorce was finalized in 2001. Um, so yeah, he was very young. He was probably not even a year old or right around a year old at the time. It's just crazy how people destroy so many lives with their lies, so many lives. Um, it doesn't look like Skakel has ever been married other than the one time. So it was a 10-year marriage altogether. And yeah, I'll just put that down. That's just one of the cases that breaks my heart. We're coming up on the 50-year anniversary of Martha Moxley's murder this coming October 30th. It'll be 50 years. And as you guys know, if you are regulars watching my last couple of weeks, I've spoken about the her mother passing away just this last December in her 90s, and then the mother of RFK Jr., Edith Skakel Kennedy, or Ethel Skakel Kennedy. Um, she passed away in October this past year. So they both died in 2024 in their 90s. And it's just really sad that it was at the 45th anniversary, like right pretty much the day of the 45th anniversary, that it was announced that Michael Skakel would never be tried again for the homicide. And that was largely due to the book that RFK Jr. wrote in 2016. So that was back in 2020. And that was still while Donnie was at the end of his first term. That was before the 2020 election. So the election fraud, I spoke about that yesterday with my new wild and crazy idea about that possibly, let me see if I can recount it, that possibly during the 2020 election, Trump's people told him that they had it wired, and they didn't do that because they were fed up with him. And so they just let it ride, and they've denied it ever since, which would make sense. This is all theory, my theory, which would make sense why Donnie is so adamant that he won that election, because if his people said that they cheated and wired it so that he would win it, and then he didn't win it, it doesn't make sense, right? But it makes sense to me that, I mean, when you try to make sense of crazy, let me just say it's like hitting your head against a brick wall. And when you're trying to like ungaslight yourself, it makes you just go nuts as you like fall into the rabbit hole that you're trying to see your way out of. So maybe I'm just, coming up with all this to try to make sense of something that's never going to make sense, because he also likes to complain about this past election that he just won, that one was also rigged, and that there was cheating going on, and that he's going to investigate election fraud in the election that he just won. And again, the gaslighters are always accusing their victims of doing what they're doing. So, and they try to stay one step ahead of it by making those types of accusations. So before you can accuse them of what they've done, they're accusing you of what they've done. And then if you accuse them, then it looks like you're just being retaliatory, right? Annoying. So annoying. Anyway, we're just hitting an hour, and I just want to check in with you guys and see where you're at, because yeah, the whole reason that I was talking about this Chauvin Floyd tragedy is because I fully expect dear leader to absolve Chauvin of all charges and to pardon him. He keeps talking about it. Maybe he's not going to do it because he keeps talking about it and not doing it. And if he was going to do it, maybe he would have done it already. I don't know. I think he's pretty unpredictable. I don't think he has a plan, really. Anna B says, I wouldn't doubt it. Well, when he talks about it, I know he's trying to push people's buttons. He's trying to upset people. I'm sure he's also trying to appease a lot of MAGAs that are always going to be in any white man's corner against any black man. So much to be said for that. So sad. I remember that kid, his last name was Aubrey. What was his first name? The one who was jogging, the black kid that was shot while jogging by those rednecks in their pickup truck with their rifle. What was his first name? Aubrey. Let's see. Because it was right around the same time as Aubrey. It was right around the same time as the dispatcher woman that was asleep in her own apartment when they busted in and killed her in Kentucky, I think, like Lexington or something like that. Um, what was his name? Um, and then there was like Tamir Rice. Or there were too many of them. Ahmaud Arbery, February 23rd, 2020, 25-year-old black man. So Ahmaud Arbery had just happened, and then let me try to find the woman who was shot in her own apartment. I think she was a dispatcher. And her family got paid out bazillions of dollars by the state of Kentucky or the city of Lexington or both. Let's see, Breonna Taylor. So she was 26. She was a medical worker, so she might have been a nurse or a nurse's assistant. And it was Louisville Police Department, March 13th of 2020. So yeah, Breonna Taylor after Ahmaud Arbery and then George Floyd. That was kind of the trifecta. I mean, it's something that happens way too often, but those were the high profile cases. So Taylor's family was awarded $12 million in compensation and was given a promise that the Lexington Police Department would reform its practices. So, Breonna Taylor, was she a nurse or was she like in school to be a nurse? It just says medical worker. That's all it says is medical worker. So yeah, I bet she was probably like a nurse's technician or something like that, a nurse's assistant. I don't know. Maybe she worked in like a nursing home or something like that. Oh, it says here is CNN article. Recently hired. Oh, I'm glad I found this. She had recently been hired by the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. So was she hired to be a dispatcher? Um, because yeah, maybe she was like a nurse's assistant and then getting into becoming a dispatcher for the sheriff's office or something. Um, let's see. Wait, no, this is something else. Sorry. Again, artificial intelligence. It's the police officer who shot her was recently hired by the sheriff's office. Cosgrove, Miles Cosgrove. Huh. And this is an article from 2 years ago. Hired as a deputy. Okay. Because yeah, I thought that Brianna was like a dispatcher or something. But anyway, that's pretty sad. That I mean these officers with their use of excessive force, they cost their departments and the taxpayers so much money, so many millions of dollars. It's terrible. Expensive mistakes, and then they go on to have careers. Again, my husband's law enforcement, so I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of it from both sides, and it's a tough job. It's a very tough job. But some people are cut out for it and some people aren't. And I think some people think that they're cut out for it when they're not. And yeah, you got to go where your strengths are. I thought she was a dispatcher too, Anna B says. Yeah, I did know that her family got compensation. I didn't know that it was 18 million. And then I remember him, and they shot him for supposedly looking at a building site. Right. And so yeah, you're talking about Aubrey, and he had like been out on a run, and he had just stopped to look inside of I think a home that was under construction. And I guess that's something that people do, is walk through construction sites. It seems like a dumb thing to do because you could step on a nail or a rake or something. But also, I mean, it's private property. Even though it's not complete, it's still private property. So, yeah, it's terrible. Was it Trayvon Martin? Is that the kid who was shot by Zimmerman in Florida? I think that's Trayvon Martin, who had his hood up and he was going to buy Skittles. Like, this is a terrible thing that some people might be aware of and other people might not be aware of, is Skittles is kind of like an inside joke for racists. Let's see. I think that's Trayvon Martin. And that was probably right before all the rest of these, like maybe a couple of years before. A lot of years before. The shooting of Trayvon Martin took place on February 26th of 2012 in Sanford, Florida. 17 years old. I thought he was younger. And George Zimmerman, 28-year-old Hispanic American. But the story of him buying Skittles, like that's what he went to the store for, and that's what he had on his person. He was carrying a bag of Skittles and an Arizona iced tea. The Skittles became a symbol of his innocence and a symbol of the tragedy, leading to protests and rallies. But see, I've seen them as a symbol of the other side. So we went to 7-Eleven to buy the Skittles and the iced tea. Zimmerman being a volunteer neighborhood watch person, or can you just say nosy neighbor? I don't know. Spotted Martin and followed him. That would be pretty scary, to be walking in the dark and somebody following you. Other items with Martin included a cell phone, headphones, a lighter, and money. There was a noticeable increase in Skittle sales following the shooting, as some people bought them as a way to show solidarity with Trayvon Martin. The ongoing discussion, the story and the use of Skittles as a symbol continue to spark discussions about race, justice, and the need for accountability. That is wild. Yeah. There was a kid in Cleveland, I think he was 12 years old, at a park, that was also shot by police. I think he did have a toy gun, which is very dangerous. I think that was Cleveland. Let me just look up that name real quick before we start to wrap up. Kid shot in park. And there's probably been a lot of them. Let me see if I just do that. Kid shot in park in Cleveland. Yep, it just happened 4 days ago. Tamir Rice, though, that's the second thing that comes up in Wikipedia. So that was November 22nd, 2014. Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old in Cleveland. And, you know, I would think that the officer probably wouldn't have been charged in that case, because that's the problem with toy guns, is they can look like real guns. I'm not justifying it. I'm just explaining it for anybody who, I mean, I think that's kind of obvious. It's very sad. And then, so they just had the 10-year anniversary of it this past November. The Tamir Rice was the 10-year anniversary. And I wonder if the family even got paid out, because again, with him having a toy gun, it, and at a park, like on a playground, so the police are thinking that they're protecting the other kids. Basically, it's a terrible situation. Um, let's see. I'm just trying to see if there were what the fallout was. So it says, following the shooting, Cleveland police found that the officers did not violate any rules or policies of the Cleveland Division of Police related to the shooting itself. In December 2015, a grand jury declined to file charges against the two officers. Then in 2020, the Justice Department declined to file federal criminal charges against them. But this is nice. I mean, seriously, the city of Cleveland paid $6 million to settle a wrongful death lawsuit filed by Rice's family. That's nice that they got paid out, even though there were no charges. I think that that's fair. It's a very sad situation. And it's not my kid. If it was my kid, I'd be probably dead myself from all the despair and sadness. At the end of the day, the 12-year-old child lost their life, and that should not have happened in the city of Cleveland, said the Cleveland mayor, Frank Jackson, at a press conference in 2016. It should not have happened. 2.5 years after the killing, Lockman was fired from his position with the Cleveland police. It was not related to Tamir's death, but for lying on his application and violating other administrative policies. January 2017, the city of Cleveland filed charges against him for failing to provide truthful information on his employment application regarding disciplinary actions. Information surrounding his departure from previous police department, from a previous police department, and failing a test in May 2013. Cleveland police had previously confirmed to News 5 that upon hiring him, they did not review his personnel file with Independence Police. Well, whose fault is that? I mean, you're a police department. You must vet your applicants if you're hiring them. Give me a break. So, yeah. Like I said, I think it's nice that the family got financial compensation for such a terrible tragedy. 12 years old. But yeah, don't play with even fake guns, Um, so last year, the guy who killed Tamir Rice was hired in West Virginia, but quickly resigned due to the backlash she received. Huh, interesting. Because yeah, maybe you should be in a different industry. Come on. You accidentally killed a kid. That'd be a hard thing, I would think, for anybody to live with, anybody who had a conscience. Even if you could make sense of it, still, ending a life is not something that most people can live with. A lot of people self-destruct, they get self-injurious over time. I mean, it creeps up on you, even if it's justified. Taking a life is really tough. Or, maiming somebody, that kind of thing. Do I still have all 3 dogs in here or just one? Oh, I've got 2. Let me get the dogs to have some cuteness at the end of this sad uh, live talking about all this racial injustice. Um, the point is that law enforcement is more likely to use deadly force than they are when the supposed suspect is white. Absolutely. Like the white suspect who shot all those people in the church, and then they stopped and bought him a burger on the way to the police department, I think, because he said he was hungry. Like that's disgusting. That's absolutely insane. Even really terrible white suspects are treated way better than they would if it was a person of color. Yeah. Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know, like, so that kid, I think he was kind of young, shot 9 people. Um, in They invited him into their Bible study. That was freaking crazy. Let's see. I just am Googling killer at Bible study. It'll probably pop right up. Dylan Roof sentenced to death for Charleston church massacre. I think that's him. January 2017. It happened in 2015. Um, Dylan Roof. Yeah, he's so young. How old was he at the time? So young. He looked so young in the picture. Um, let's see. Dylan Roof, age. And there's a Dylan Roof GoFundMe. That's disgusting. So he's 31 now, and it was 10 years ago. So he was 21, but he had like the bowl haircut and just a baby face. Like he just looks like such a doof. It makes sense since his last name is Roof. Mass Red Rummer, white supremacist, neo-Nazi. He was 22 at the time. No, he was 22 a couple of years later. So he was about 20 at the time. Let's see. I think he just turned 21. Yeah, he'd been 21 for a couple of months. But I want to see if it says anything about the burger that they bought him when they arrested him. So I didn't know about that for the longest time. When I heard that, I was just like, dang. Yeah, this is just a few days later. Cops bought Burger King for Dylan Roof following his arrest. New details are emerging about what happened to Dylan Roof, the man who allegedly killed 9 people at a Charleston church in the hours that followed his arrest. Police in Shelby, North Carolina, reportedly bought the 21-year-old food from Burger King after he was taken into custody approximately 250 miles northwest of Charleston following a 16-hour manhunt. Shelby Police Chief Jeff Ledford said that Roof had bought water and chips from a gas station in Charleston earlier on Tuesday, but hours had passed and he was hungry. He was very quiet, very calm. He didn't talk. He sat down here very quietly. He was not problematic. Well, yeah, because you were probably white and had a gun and, you know, had him under arrest. Of course, he's not going to be problematic. Strickland Maddox, a pastor with the Grove Baptist Church in Shelby, North Carolina, also described what happened when police bought food from Burger King for the suspect. He hadn't eaten, they said, in a couple of days. They bought him a hamburger. They just sent out for it. I guess one of the police officers went and picked it up. Oh, yeah. So that's two different stories in one article that he had eaten that day. But whatever. I mean, yeah, people need to eat when they're in custody, but usually you can find like a moldy ham sandwich in the uh those machines, vending machines. To get hot food from a fast food place, that's pretty wild. And it's a bad advertisement for Burger King. I mean, they probably have not done so well with their sales ever since that became public knowledge. To be associated with something like that, to be affiliated with something like that is tragic for the brand. So we are getting to an hour and 20 minutes, so I should probably wrap up. Thank you guys so much for being here. Let me show you more cute puppiness. Come on, babies. Do I have two or do I have three? Come here. Oh, double puppy love. Oh, I do have three. Coco is sitting right behind me. I got all three. Let's see if I can get two babies on screen together. Are they so precious? We got the short hair and the long hair. Mookie is I think about 8 years old. And then she is about 5 months old. And then Coco is sitting on the ground behind me, bigger than the two of them put together. So I'm not going to be picking her up. But are they so cute? Are they the cutest little puppies in the world? I was not thinking they were so cute last night when I was doing my yoga on videotape, and Coco got the door opened and all three of them came running in. And I thought, well, maybe they won't bother me. Maybe they'll, lay on the bed and cuddle, which Coco did because she's good. But then these two started wrestling like practically in my lap. So I had to pause it to lock them out again, lock them out more better. Mwah. But their colors so cute together? Mookie looks kind of black in this lighting. She's more like a coppery color. And she was more of a coppery color, but as she's getting older, she's getting more blonde. But look at them. They love each other. They're like little Teletubbies. They love each other very much. See, I should change my YouTube to just like a puppy cam channel, right? BoobTube is here. Hello, hello. I do need to wrap up though. I got something scheduled at 4 o'clock. The problem is that law enforcement, okay, we read that one. I don't think I highlighted it though. Even really terrible, well, white suspects are treated way better than they would be if a person of color. Yeah, I live pretty close to where John Crawford was shot in Walmart for um, holding a toy gun that he was planning to purchase for his little kid. So that was, what year was John Crawford? And his family, I don't think, has ever received a dime. John Crawford the third, I think, because his father, John Crawford Jr., actually works in law enforcement. I think he's like a probation officer, and he's very diplomatic. He's very good with understanding the situation from both sides. But that was crazy because the police officer that, first of all, the person that made the phone call to 911 in Walmart saying that this black man was in Walmart um, pointing a gun at people. And then when police got there, they said, drop the weapon. And I think it was like within 0.6 seconds, they shot him dead. And really, the person who made the 911 call was intentionally misrepresenting the situation. And then the police officer that shot him had a really bad history and hadn't been there that long. I actually knew somebody who went to high school with the police officer, and it didn't surprise anybody that knew him in high school that he did that. So John Crawford is a case that maybe you have, maybe you haven't heard about it. But it's a case that I've followed because, like I said, it happened not too far from where I live, and very, very sad. What year was that? It was probably about 10 years ago, right? Let me see. because I think it was like August 6th. Look that one up real quick before we wrap up. Oh, I got the baby falling out of my lap. John Crawford. So he was 22 at the time. It was August 5th, 2014. So we just passed the 10-year anniversary. Very good looking young man. Yeah, John Crawford III. And Ronald Ritchie is the name of the police officer that killed him. And you can see it on videotape. I'll try to put a link in the description to the shooting. One thing I want to say about that case, because hardly anybody knows this, not even people in the area. I've met his father. His father's a wonderful man. Like I said, he's been fighting for justice, but doing it very diplomatically, so he hasn't gotten too far. But I don't think he's going to give up. I think he's just going to continue to be a gentleman about it. Because he lives in Kentucky. That's where he works. And he basically says the officer would have given his son more time to surrender if he had not been black. And that's true. The guy was Ronald Ritchie is a racist. And unfortunately, a lot of police are. I'll just say it. It's true. It shouldn't be that way. I've even known a black police officer who was racist. That kind of internalized stigma is just really fearful, because a black racist officer is often going to be more racist than even a white racist officer. And when I say racist, I'm not talking about reverse racism. I'm talking about a black officer who is racist against black people. So, so what I started to say real quick before I wrap up, John Crawford III, his girlfriend was with him at Walmart. Okay. That was August 5th, 2014. His girlfriend was with him. She was in a different section. He was in like the cat food aisle. I think he was calling his mom to ask what type of cat food to get. And his girlfriend was in a different aisle. Or maybe he was calling his girlfriend in a different aisle to ask her what type of cat food to get. Anyway, she passed away in a very suspicious car accident in Dayton, Ohio, 4 months later on New Year's Day. And the accident happened at like 3:30. And they tried to portray that it happened at 3:30 in the morning on New Year's Day, which, there's a lot of people partying and a lot of fatal accidents that happen in the middle of the night on New Year's. But it wasn't 3:30 in the morning. It was 3:30 in the afternoon. And it was a very suspicious accident. Let's see, what was his girlfriend's name? John Crawford Jr. girlfriend. And yeah, it's just nuts. Tasha Thomas. She had been very loud about his death. And, she'd been trying to pursue justice, and she'd been getting threatened. And then she passed away. So here we go. January 2nd, 2015. Tasha Thomas died on New Year's Day when the car she was traveling in struck a pole in Dayton at a high speed and overturned, according to police. And the driver, so she wasn't even driving. I want to see if it says what time it happened in here. The detective had accused her of lying, threatened to send her to jail, and suggested that she was high on drugs before telling her that Crawford was dead. That was the day that it happened. So it happened at 3:06 in the afternoon. And like I said, they really tried to portray that it happened at 3 in the morning. The car was traveling between 90 and 100 miles an hour in a residential area with turnabouts. So it's like narrow streets with cars parked on both sides where you would not be able to drive that fast if you tried. So I think that their vehicle had been tampered with. So, all right, on that. Oh, so sad. Tasha Thomas, New Year's Day. John Crawford and Tasha Thomas. Absolutely crazy. I had a really hard time ever going into that Walmart again after that. I didn't like Walmart to begin with anyway. They look cute together. Oh, the puppy dogs. I thought you were talking about Tasha Thomas and John Crawford Jr., John Crawford III. Like I said, he was a very good looking man. Very good looking. They shouldn't do that to the hot ones. No, I'm just kidding. Hello, BoobTube TV. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks so much for being here. Have a good day, Miss Jez, Miss AB, and chat blessings. Yes. Yeah, the Walmart shooting. I'll have to maybe talk about that one more. I had hoped that John Crawford Jr. would get justice for his son. And like I said, I don't think he'll ever give up trying. He'll probably spend his entire life trying. I hope everyone has a great day. Absolutely. Peace out. Love and light. Drink your water, eat your protein, eat your veggies, play with puppies, get fresh air and sunshine. And most of all, just be. Just be. Do what inspires you. What better advice is there, right? And my cursor keeps going in and out. It might be that I got to get my laptop replaced or something, because I took it in to Best Buy a few times and they couldn't really do anything. Or no, they would fix it, but then it would revert back. So now it just kind of bounces back and forth. So for the time being, I have to do the touch screen and session. Love and light. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching. End session. Come on. There we go.